A man is kneeling in the sand. Not praying, though, that was his profession. He is sighting a gun. The barrel points not at the sky. It points at a column of British tanks rolling toward him out of the morning haze. His name is Wilhelm Bach. He is a Lutheran pastor, and he has 5 guns. 12 tanks are coming, at a range where no German weapon was supposed to reach them. He lets them come closer, closer still. Then he gives the order. What happened in the next 4 minutes would change how Germany fought the rest of the war. But to understand why, you have to go back 20 years. Back to a secret, and a gun that was never meant to do what Bach was about to make it do. Germany was not allowed to build this gun. The Treaty of Versailles said so, explicitly, but Krupp-Bofors did not stop. They moved. In 1925, a team of Krupp engineers boarded a train for Sweden. Their destination, the Bofors Arms Works at Karlskoga. Krupp owned a controlling interest in Bofors. Nobody in Paris or London was watching Karlskoga. The engineers had specifications from the German army, a gun capable of hitting bombers at their maximum operational ceiling. The first design was 75 millimeters. The army rejected it too light, so they went heavier. The prototype 88 millimeter appeared in 1928.
Foot meters! Fire!
The first assembled gun went to trials in 1931. By 1933, as Hitler came to power, it entered service under the designation 8.8 centimeter Flugabwehrkanone 18 Flak 18. The number 18 was chosen deliberately to mislead Allied observers into thinking it was an old design from the First World War. It was not old, it was new and powerful, and precisely what the German army wanted. An anti-aircraft gun. Nobody was thinking about tanks yet. That assumption was going to kill a lot of men. Spain was the laboratory. Germany sent the Condor Legion to support Franco's nationalists. And with the Condor Legion went the guns. A small number of Flak 18s arrived in November 1936. Their official purpose was air defense. But Spain had a problem the gunners had not anticipated. The Soviet Union had supplied the Republican forces with T-26 tanks. These tanks were fast, well-armed, and impervious to the nationalist standard weapons. The 37mm POC-36 anti-tank gun could sometimes defeat them. Sometimes, on May 11, 1937, south of Toledo, a German flak battery turned its barrels horizontal. 2 T-26 tanks were coming. The first 88mm round hit at a range the T-26 crew could not have imagined was dangerous. The gun literally obliterated the tank at first contact. The second tank did not advance. The crew of that Flak 18 had done something nobody had ordered them to do, something not in the manual, and it worked. By 1938, the Army was issuing specific armor-piercing ammunition for the Flak. The gun was changing, but the men who designed it still thought of it as a sky weapon. That thinking was about to cost them dearly in France, and then teach them something they would never forget. France was supposed to be easy. The Wehrmacht drove through the Ardennes in 3 days, and the Allied armies scattered. Then, on May 21st, 1940, something unexpected hit the German 7th Panzer Division south of Arras. Matilda II infantry tanks, 74 of them. The German 37mm anti-tank guns fired. The shells bounced off. The Matilda's armor, up to 78mm thick, was proof against every standard German weapon in the field. The division commander was General Erwin Rommel. He watched his anti-tank crews fire and fail. He watched his Panzer IIIs fire and fail. Then he made a decision. Rommel ordered the 88mm flak guns pulled from their air defense positions and laid flat against the advancing Matildas. His 37mm anti-tank guns were useless. His tank guns were useless, and the 88s were the only weapon in his division firing a shell large enough to pierce that armor, even if no doctrine existed for this. The flak guns were enormous, high profile, and designed to shoot upward, exposing their crews to withering ground fire with no protection. The 88s destroyed 35 of the 74 attacking Matildas. The British advance stopped. Rommel filed a report. He did not forget what the flak had done when there was nothing else. But the Wehrmacht's high command had a different conclusion. They called it improvisation, a desperate solution in a particular moment. It would take the desert to change their minds. Rommel arrived in North Africa in February 1941. His Afrika Corps had Panzer IIs with 20mm guns, Panzer IIIs with 37mm guns, Panzer IVs with low-velocity 75mm guns. The British had Matildas. The same Matildas, the ones nothing could touch. For the first months of the Desert War, a Matilda facing a German tank was almost a formality. The armor held against everything. British tank crews had started calling it the Queen of the Desert. But Rommel remembered Arras. He had brought 88mm guns to Africa. Not many 13, spread across his defensive line. But he knew exactly what he wanted to do with them. He needed a place where he could dig them in, conceal them. Let the British tanks come within range before they knew what was happening. Halfaya Pass was the answer. A narrow cut through an escarpment, linking the coastal plain to the desert above. The British had to use it. There was almost no other way through. Rommel assigned 5 88mm guns to Bach, and he told Bach to dig them into the hillside until only the barrel was visible. The British had no idea what was waiting for them. By the spring of 1941, British intelligence had concluded something. They concluded that the 88mm flak gun was being used in an anti-tank role. They noted it in their reports. They warned their commanders. And then Operation Battleaxe went ahead anyway, because knowing about a weapon and understanding how it changes everything, those are two different things. Wilhelm Bach had buried his guns so deep into the escarpment that the muzzle flash was invisible at combat range. The British tank crews would hear a sound. Then they would be dead. And the question that had haunted British planners, can we break through, was about to be replaced by a harder question entirely. Not can we break through. But why do our tanks keep dying before they even see the enemy? The operation began at 6 in the morning on June 15, 1941. The 4th Royal Tank Regiment moved toward Halfaya Pass. 18 Matilda IIs. The Germans had read the British radio transmissions. A tank commander had radioed his superiors, "My horse has thrown a shoe." The codes weren't codes. Bach knew they were coming. He knew from which direction. He ordered his men to hold their fire. The Matildas entered the pass. The gunners waited. At 1,000 yards, Bach gave the order. Cyril Joly, a British tank officer, described what it looked like from inside. "As I spoke, I saw the flame and smoke from the German's gun. Then his tank stopped." Of the 18 Matildas that entered the pass that morning, 11 did not come back. "15 of the 18 Allied tanks put out of action on the first day fell to Flak 18s, to 5 guns. 5 guns manned by crews who were technically manning anti-aircraft artillery. On the escarpment above, the same story repeated at Ha-Fid Ridge. 4 more 88s dug in. More Crusader tanks hit at ranges the 2-pounder gun on the British tanks couldn't reach. One British prisoner complained to his German captors afterward. "In our opinion, it's unfair to use flak against our tanks." He wasn't wrong about the advantage. He was wrong about where it came from. Bach held Halfaya Pass for 7 months after Battleaxe ended. He was surrounded, cut off, running out of food and water. On Christmas Day 1941, he read the Bible to his men. He surrendered on January 17, 1942, not because the British broke through, because his garrison had eaten almost everything. He was captured and sent to Canada as a prisoner of war. He died there in December 1942. Cancer surgery at a military hospital in Toronto. The pastor of Halfaya Pass, 50 years old. The British have lost nearly half their tanks. 200 tanks went into Operation Battleaxe. 87 are permanent write-offs. The operation is over in 72 hours. General Archibald Wavell is relieved of command. London replaces him with Claude Auchinleck. The official reason, failure to relieve Tobruk. The real reason is sitting in the sand at Halfaya, still smoking. But the British are not the only ones who have learned something. Rommel has too. He has now proven, twice France, then Africa, that the 88mm flak gun can win a tank battle. But the gun is still a Luftwaffe weapon. It belongs to the Air Force. Moving it, positioning it, commanding its crews, all of it runs through a chain of authority that has nothing to do with the tank battles it keeps winning. Rommel wants it on every vehicle. He wants it dug in before every defensive line. He wants it in the hands of commanders who fight on the ground. The Wehrmacht's leadership resists. This is a flak gun. It shoots down aircraft. What happened next is the story of a weapon that forced an entire military to change how it thought about firepower. The gun itself was evolving. The Flak 18 gave way to the Flak 36 in 1936, a simplified barrel that could be replaced in sections in the field. The Flak 37 followed, adding a more sophisticated fire-controlled data display. Each version could fire the same ammunition. Each version fired faster than any Allied anti-tank gun, facing at 15 rounds per minute. and the penetration numbers were extraordinary. The standard armor-piercing round, the Panzer Granat A39, could punch through 105 millimeters of armor at 30 degrees at 1,000 meters. At 2,000 meters, the gun could still defeat armor that no British or American tank carried in 1941. The Matilda's thickest armor was 78 millimeters. The 88 could kill it from a range where the Matilda's crew could barely see the gun. In the summer of 1941, something else happened. Operation Barbarossa Germany invades the Soviet Union, and on June 26th, a flak battery from the General Göring Regiment encountered something new. A KV-2 heavy tank, 64 tons. A 152mm gun in a massive turret. German 37mm and 50mm anti-tank guns fired at it. Nothing happened. The German tankers watched their rounds bounce off. The flak crew waited until the KV-2 was close, then fired. 2 hits. The KV-2 stopped. Then the T-34 arrived. And the same problem started again, a Soviet tank that the Wehrmacht standard weapons could not kill. By the end of 1941, the 88 was the only German weapon that could reliably stop a KV-1 or T-34 at any angle. In a war that was supposed to end in weeks, Germany was fighting into a Russian winter, and the gun that was built to shoot down aircraft was holding the line on the ground. But the gun was still enormous, still high profile, still Luftwaffe. The Wehrmacht needed it to be something else. The answer had been in a file at Krupp since 1936, a proposal to mount the 88 in a tank turret. The tank had not been built yet, but the gun was ready. The Tiger I entered service in 1942. It mounted the 8.8cm Kampfwagenkanone 36, a modified Flak 36, shortened slightly to fit a turret, firing identical ammunition. The gun that had been improvised at Arras, experimented with in Spain, perfected at Halfaya, was now the main armament of the most feared tank on the battle. Allied tankers had a name for what they felt when one appeared: 88 fever. They spoke of it openly. A Sherman tank with a 75mm gun had almost no chance against a Tiger at any normal combat range. By 1943, Krupp had gone further. The 8.8cm Pak 43, a dedicated anti-tank gun built on a cruciform mount, sitting low to the ground, could penetrate 200mm of armor at 1,000 meters. Any Allied tank, any angle, any range they were likely to fight at. By 1944, the same gun, the Kampfwagenkanone 43 variant, was the main armament of the Tiger II, the King Tiger. Germany had built roughly 18,295 Flak 18, 36, and 37 guns between 1933 and 1945, each one an anti-aircraft gun, each one capable of what Bach's 5 guns did at Halfaya. What Rommel understood, and the High Command took years to accept, was this: the 88 was not a flak gun that happened to kill tanks. It was a gun that happened to be aimed at the sky before the war taught everyone where to point it. Operation Battleaxe failed to relieve Tobruk. It cost Britain 220 tanks, 969 men killed or wounded. The 13 88mm guns at Halfaya and Hafid Ridge were directly responsible for the majority of British armor knocked out on the first day. 13 guns. The British went home that evening in vehicles the Germans still hadn't found a way to hurt. The infantry who walked behind those tanks had no such protection. When Operation Crusader came in November 1941, the British brought different tactics, more guns, different routes. They had learned. But the 88 remained, and remained, and would remain. Bach surrendered in January 1942. He was 50 years old, sick, a prisoner of war in Canada. His guns were still in the escarpment when he left. His men had held Halfaya for 7 months with almost nothing, no water, almost no food. The RAF bombing them through Christmas.
From the sky, American and RAF bombers blast the enemy across a 40-mile front.
He did not live to see how the gun he had aimed at tank armor became Germany's defining weapon of the entire war. There is a photograph taken after Operation Battleaxe. Rommel is standing in it. So is an Italian general named Bach. They are looking at a Matilda II. The shell hole is on the top edge of the hull. The armor at that point was 70 millimeters thick. The 88 went through it at 2 kilometers. There are no gunners in the photograph. Bach's men are already back at their positions. The British prisoner who said it was unfair was right about one thing. The war that was supposed to be fought had rules about what weapons went where. Anti-aircraft guns pointed up. Anti-tank guns pointed forward. Tanks fought tanks. What Bach did at Halfaya and what Rommel understood at Arras a year before was simpler than any doctrine. He had a gun that could reach something no other gun could reach, and he pointed it at it. The 88 went into the Tiger. The Tiger went into history. Wilhelm Bach is buried in Woodland Cemetery in Toronto, a Lutheran pastor from Mannheim, 168 kilometers from the battlefield where his most famous victory happened, 11,000 kilometers from the pass where he sat in the sand and let the tanks come closer. Closer until he gave the order. If this kind of history is what you come here for, the details nobody tells you, the weapons that changed everything before anyone admitted they were changing it then, you already know what to do. Share this with someone who doesn't know what happened at Halfaya Pass. Subscribe if you want to be here when we cover the weapons and the men behind them that history tends to forget. And leave a comment. Did you know the 88 was still considered a Luftwaffe gun when it was winning ground battles for the Wehrmacht? Because most people don't.